All right. In this quick clip here, we're going to go over the wiring for the telemetry radio and GPS if you're using the H743 flight controller. This is a very similar diagram to the other video, but of course a different flight controller has different things. And so we're going to start over here again with the telemetry radio on the right hand side. Again, a reminder, the way I've written this, TX, RX, is where the things are supposed to go, if that makes sense. Not necessarily what they are on the radio that would be plugged in over here. Okay, sorry if that's confusing. There's either one of two ways to do it, and I chose to do it this way, but hopefully it makes sense. Okay, so on our Matek H743 Slim, we have the arrow facing this direction here. Okay, and the wording is also written this way. So kind of get your orientation on your flight controller. The USB port's over here, the silver piece. Okay, and if we're going to wire up our telemetry radio, in this case, this flight controller does have a RTS and CTS line, which is different from the 405. But we're going to run through these one by one. So we'll have our 5 volt here. Okay, I'm going to come over here to this 5 volt pad here. Okay, and our ground comes on the other side here, up and over to the ground pad there. Okay, we have our TX pad. Okay, or TX wire, I should say, that goes to the TX on the flight controller here, way at the end. And then we have our RX, this green one here. It weaves in between there, down, and ends up on this RX pad. Okay, oops. And then we have our CTS and RTS. So CTS and RTS just go straight across to what they are. They don't swap like TX and RX do. Let's go ahead and do our RTS first. Okay, it's going to up here, this teal colored line over to the RTS7, and the CTS will go over to this magenta line to the CTS7. Okay, so we have those basically those 6 pads all straight across this inner row right below the arrow there. We'll use those for a telemetry radio, and that will allow us to have the full CTS RTS capability, which is kind of nice. Might as well use it if we have it. And then the rest of the pads will be just similar to the other flight controller as well. Okay, so make sure you go ahead and wire those up correctly. All right, and then the GPS over here, we're going to go through a similar step here. This 4V5 or 5 volt power over here to the 5 volt. Okay, we have our ground with the G here, down here. Over here, it's going to cross over to the ground right here. Okay. Then we have our TX pad with this magenta line. Going to cross over here to the TX pad way over here. Whoops, I swapped those. Sorry, guys. That's my bad. This one's supposed to go to the TX pad. Sorry about that. Let's just switch those real quick. My apologies. There we go. Okay, so this TX is going to go out on the magenta line over to the TX3 pad. Okay, and the RX is going to go over here to the RX3 pad here. Okay, then we have DA2, which is going to follow this grayish whitish line over to the DA2 pad right here. And then we have the CL in the green. The CL2 is going to go over here to the CL2 pad right here. So again, these top 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 across this inner row on this side of the flight controller are going to be for your GPS compass combo there. And just once more to emphasize, you can see here Matek is even labeled, this is Matek's labeled on the inside here. Okay, this is actually a RX pad right here on the GPS compass, but they label it as a TX here to show you where it's supposed to go. So I've just continued that labeling and followed it all the way out to the TX. Okay, because an RX line on a peripheral should connect to a TX line on a flight controller and vice versa. Same thing over here. Okay, I just followed that convention so it's all the same on the same diagram. To have the TX go here to the RX, okay, and then the RX, sorry, TX, the blue one here, my bad. TX blue one go here to the TX, and the RX in green here go to the RX, even though on the actual radio those are swapped. Okay, this is just where the wires should head on the flight control, where they should be attached to. Hopefully that makes sense, and this would be your wiring schematic for the H743. Thanks.